we would like to welcome all the hunters for military secrets. So are you ready to embark on an exciting journey to places where time has stood still and the secrets of the past are just waiting to be revealed? Can you imagine that you find an ancient tank covered with moss and rust, like an ancient dragon sleeping in the forest? Do you want to come across a sunken plane with its wings stretching out like the arms of a ghost hiding underwater? What if among the finds there turns out to be a long-forgotten weapon that can change the course of history? So today, let's dive into the world of amazing finds together, which seem like pages from history textbooks come to life, and find out what secrets it hides. Just take a look at this huge concrete battleship standing in the middle of the sea and evoking thoughts of ancient battles. This is Fort Drum, a concrete battleship forgotten in the waters of Manila Bay in the Philippines. Built by the United States in the early 20th century, this unique fort was designed as a real fortress with thick walls and powerful cannons. During the Second World War, Fort Drum withstood heavy bombardments and assaults, remaining an impregnable bastion until the end. As you can see for yourself, its rusty cannons and dilapidated walls seem to take us back to the era of great naval battles and heroic deeds. As for me, such artifacts of history are better than any museum. Can you imagine wandering through the Sahara Desert and suddenly discovering something absolutely incredible? This is an almost untouched P-40 Kitty Hawk fighter jet stuck in the sands. This is exactly what happened in 2012 when a Polish oilman found this aircraft, which belonged to the British Air Force. It was lost in 1942. This military ghost kept many secrets. Who was the pilot? Why was it there? It turned out the plane was piloted by Sergeant Dennis Copping, who probably made an emergency landing due to technical problems. Now we would like to escape from everyday life and imagine ourselves in the Norwegian fjords, where the German destroyer Z2 Georg Thiel is forever lost in history. In April of 1940, during the battles of Narvik, this ship fought bravely, repelling the attacks of British destroyers. At that time, heavy snowfall hid the movement of these vehicles, while Georg Thiel's powerful guns thundered deafeningly in an epic battle. Even after having serious damage, this powerful beast continued the battle until it was deliberately destroyed by the crew. To date, its rusty remains lie at the bottom of the fjord, being a silent witness to the heroic events. Do you know not every piece of military equipment on the ocean floor is the result of a battle or accident? As it turns out, some of them were purposefully sent to the seabed by their owners. At the bottom of the Pacific Ocean, one can find an entire underwater museum of American military equipment left behind after World War II. Tanks, planes, ships, cars, all of them can be found there, like the scenery for some post-apocalyptic movie. But this powerful arsenal, which once fiercely threatened the enemy, now quietly slumbers in the depths, overgrown with corals and starfish. What an unexpected ending for such military giants. You may have never heard of it, but there is a real military aircraft hidden on the border of Croatia and Bosnia. A huge underground airport hiding under the Pleševica mountain is the Zeljava airbase, once the largest and most expensive facility in Yugoslavia. Built in 1968 for the crazy amount of $6 billion, this complex could withstand even a nuclear strike. Inside, there are 4 tunnels with 100-ton armored doors capable of sheltering up to 58 aircraft. Today, the place attracts fans of urban studies, although it remains dangerous due to the possible unexploded mines. But mysterious tunnels and runways overgrown with wildlife only add to the thrill. One has only to dive into the mysterious waters of the Potomac River, and you will immediately stumble upon a real ghost flotilla in Maluz Bay. Almost 230 ships, once built for the First World War but never put to sea, rest here. These wooden giants, designed to fight German submarines, have now turned into a kind of underwater forest where trees and bushes grow among the rusty debris. Once the ships stood in anticipation of great battles, and now they've become part of the reserve, turned into a national marine sanctuary.
And we're moving on at the speed of light. All the most interesting things are still ahead.
What you see on the screens now is the T-62 tank, the former main battle tank of the Soviet Army in the 1960s and 70s. Can you imagine that it was once the pinnacle of military technology, the thunderstorm of battlefields? But time is inexorable, and now this iron giant has turned into a rusty rarity, forgotten by all but the most passionate history lovers. Once, it could break through defenses and suppress the enemy with its might, but now it can only be found in museums or abandoned somewhere in the fields. This tank is a symbol of the era when Soviet technology was at the peak of its capabilities, and now it reminds us of bygone times like an iron ghost of the past, which causes admiration and nostalgia. Here is another amazing collection of old military equipment. These are various trucks. Are they ordinary? You're wrong. Something incredible has been discovered inside these rarities. As you can see, some radar equipment that has been preserved in excellent condition. From the outside, these cars look like a pile of rusty metal, as if forgotten for a century, but look inside and you'll see real treasures. It's like a secret room, preserved in its original form, despite the external decay. In September 2014, divers off the coast of Croatia discovered a real artifact of the Second World War. These were the sunken Junkers Ju-87, known as the Stuka. This German dive bomber lay at the bottom of the sea for more than 70 years, preserved surprisingly well. Divers stumbled upon it by chance during a spearfishing competition off the island of Zirj. Can you imagine what it was like to find an almost completely preserved plane standing on wheels at a depth of 28 meters as if it had just made a soft landing? Culebra is a small island paradise in Puerto Rico that is famous for its stunning white sand beaches and crystal clear waters. However, Flamenco Beach has one unusual feature. It hides two abandoned M4 Sherman tanks. These rusty giants were abandoned by the American military, which had been using the beach as a shooting range since 1939 and had increased its presence before the Vietnam War. When the military left Culebra in 1975, the locals had to deal with the remnants of military equipment. Today, these tanks covered with graffiti have become a popular tourist attraction, adding some charm to the picturesque place. Despite their rust and damage, the tanks have become a kind of guardians of the beach, attracting the attention of many photographers and history fans. If you're interested in diving and military history, go to Jordan to the Gulf of Aqaba. It's there, in this small fishing town, that the waters hide many amazing finds. In November 2017, the Jordanian Air Force sank a C-130 Hercules, creating a stunning underwater diving facility. This aircraft, lying at a depth of about 16 meters, has become an artificial reef, attracting both experienced and novice divers. But that's not all. A little further away is one of the most beautiful wrecks. This is the Cedar Pride. It was flooded in 1985 and has since become home to many marine life, turning it into a real underwater garden. In Germany, in the Metlock area, you will find World War II-era anti-tank barriers known as the Dragon's Teeth or Horkerlinie, part of the West Wall, also called the Siegfried Line. These concrete pyramids were intended to stop tanks and were built between 1936 and 1940. Metlock is one of the places where these barriers have been preserved to this day and are now a historical landmark. However, they have long been covered with moss and rare anti-war graffiti. How do you like such structures? Two massive boilers that once produced steam were probably used to heat buildings. These industrial giants now stand abandoned, their metal walls covered with rust and moss, as if recalling the old days when they were the heart of the factory. Can you imagine the noise and heat coming from them while they were working? Can you imagine that the legendary Japanese Battleship Musashi, one of the largest warships in history, was found more than 70 years after sinking? In October 1944, during the Battle of Leyte Gulf, this 73,000-ton, 862-foot-long giant was sunk by a hail of torpedoes and bombs. Its remains could be found at the bottom of the ocean until Paul Allen, Microsoft co-founder and passionate researcher, began a mission to find it. In March 2015, after 8 years of searching, Allen's team discovered the Musashi at a depth of about 1,000 meters off the coast of the Philippines. Underwater robots have captured stunning footage: giant 18-inch gun turrets, 15-ton anchors, and an ejection system for seaplanes. What a fantastic sight! Just imagine how in an abandoned forest plantation they accidentally stumble upon an impressive Soviet ZSU-23-4 Shilka. This formidable machine, designed to destroy enemy aircraft, was equipped with 4 23mm automatic cannons and a radar guidance system. Capable of firing up to 1,000 rounds per minute, the Shilka turned the sky into hell for pilots. Radar guidance made it possible to track and hit targets at an altitude of up to 1,500 meters, making it a nightmare for the enemy. To find such a war machine, abandoned and forgotten in the forest, is like opening a time capsule that has preserved the spirit of the Cold War.
What an incredible footage! We always strive to choose the best content for you.
At the end of April 2018, an excavator at a construction site in St. Petersburg accidentally unearthed fragments from a rusted aircraft from the Second World War and the remains of the pilot. Documents were found along with the body, which revealed that the pilot who defended the city in June 1941 was only 27 years old. Until that moment, his family considered him missing. The discovery shocked everyone because after more than 70 years, it was possible to restore a piece of history and return the name of the hero. The abandoned Camp Century military base, left over from the Cold War, hides in the icy wastelands of northwestern Greenland. It was built as part of the secret Iceworm project. It was designed to store nuclear missiles in an underground tunnel network. However, the military abandoned it in 1966, hoping that a thick layer of ice would permanently hide radioactive and toxic waste. As the climate warmed, the ice began to melt, and now the most hidden dangers, including radioactive materials, polychlorinated biphenyls or PCB, and 53,000 gallons of diesel fuel are exposed. In addition, old rusty containers with leaking gasoline are scattered across the untouched landscape of Greenland, posing a threat to the local ecosystem. Two mobile radar systems have been discovered in an abandoned area which is still fully configured and can be used. These old but still awe-inspiring artifacts look strange and amazing in their current state, like time machines transported from the past. Such systems were once the pinnacle of military technology, protecting the skies and tracking all the threats. Today, they have become literally silent witnesses of a bygone era, preserved despite time and the elements. The depths of the ocean hide not only lost cities and lost treasures, but also entire warships, such as the USS Independence. This aircraft carrier, which witnessed nuclear tests at Bikini Atoll, rests at the bottom of the sea like an open-air museum. Having sunk in 1951, it has become a home for marine life, which now glide among its wreckage. Every rusty hatch, every screw torn from the bowels of the ship speaks of its former power and greatness. Is this ship still waiting for its captain? It can be, but now the sea creatures rule here, and there are a lot of them here. In one of the trenches in Russia, the military found not just a box, but a time capsule. These are cigarettes that seem to have lost their taste, a cap with a Nazi soldier's uniform as if they came straight out of a historical film, a couple of bottles of booze, and German money that has not been seen in our wallets for a long time. All these things belong to a certain Aaron, a soldier who decided not just to leave, but to disappear from the historical scene, leaving behind an intrigue. Where did the veteran with the treasure go? Now it's a mystery waiting for Sherlock to solve it. In the gloomy depths of the Gulf of Finland, divers found a forgotten giant of the war. This is a German floating battery West, which sank in May of 1943. Even under the water surface, its huge 60-meter-long hull and anti-aircraft guns, miraculously surviving, are still holding the front line. Weighing more than 1,000 tons, the West was once a thunderstorm of the seas, and now it is just a shadow in the depths of the water, an invitation to an unusual journey into the past where every rusty detail tells of former power and forgotten battles. Something amazing has emerged from the depths of the sea. This is the Sherman tank covered with rust and seaweed like a ghost of the past. Can you imagine it? This iron giant, which sank decades ago, was a real fighting machine during the Second World War. In fact, I want to add something. Sherman tanks were known for their reliability and mass production. More than 50,000 units were produced. Each of them has become a symbol of American industrial power. Can you imagine how many battles this tank went through before ending up here at the bottom of the sea? The Enigma machine, without exaggeration, can be called one of the most mysterious and significant finds of the Second World War. This is not just a machine, but a true symbol of the encryption war, which was waged in the silence of offices, and its echo is still heard in modern cryptography methods. Created in Germany, Enigma was designed to encrypt military communications in such a way that even the best minds of the time struggled with its codes, trying to unravel them. The device operated using a series of rotors and electrical switches, creating billions of possible combinations, which made the cipher almost impenetrable. The abandoned Soviet submarine base in Balaklava, Crimea, is shrouded in an aura of mystery. But what can I say? Once this place was a vital center of the Soviet submarine fleet, where submarines were based, ready to go to sea at any moment. Huge hangars for boats, thick concrete walls capable of withstanding a nuclear strike, and underground tunnels created a labyrinth of impregnable forces. Today, the base appears to visitors in its abandoned grandeur, serving as a reminder of the times when the world was on the verge of nuclear war.
To be honest, I'm speechless after witnessing it. What about you?
Battery 223 in Cape May is not just a bunker, but an entire open-air museum. Built in 1942 to protect the coast from German submarines, it was never able to show its combat talent. Now, thanks to the coastal erosion, the bunker came close to the water, but fortunately remained on land. Local guides are joking that if you listen carefully, you can hear the old bunker grumbling at the surf, "There was no such thing in my time." When old ammunition is found, it's like opening a time capsule, only instead of letters, one can find grenades and mortars. Forgotten shells can be found in Europe so often that you might think that the armies just did a general cleaning here and forgot about the little things. Mine clearance specialists have already gotten so good at defusing ancient arsenals, so they want to find a bomb that does require the evacuation of half the city. On Alderney Island, one of the Channel Islands, archaeologists have discovered a German bunker from the Second World War built into the ruins of an ancient Roman fortress known as Nannery. This fortress is considered one of the best preserved Roman fortresses in the British Isles. Research has shown that the Romans equipped the fortress with advanced defensive mechanisms at that time. German soldiers used the 10-meter walls of this fortress to create their fortification during the occupation of the Channel Islands, which lasted from June 1940 to May 1945. Hitler's flytrap, the famous Nazi Stonehenge in Silesia, Poland, is not just stones, but a whole anti-gravity area for scientific tricks. According to legends, the bell could be tested here. It was a German miracle machine that rotates and glows like a disco ball at a party for physicists. Some even say that it was a launch pad for flying saucers. Honestly, if the Nazis had launched a UFO from here, it would have been the most extravagant escape from reality. Can you imagine that a real Panther tank from World War II was found in the basement of a pensioner's garage? Now lawyers are puzzling over how to deal with this unexpected find. It turns out that an ancient tank is not just an antique, but also an object of serious legal disputes. What are the rights and obligations of the owner of such a souvenir, and what to do with such a legacy of history? The legal battle promises to be no less exciting than the story of the tank itself, which has been sitting in a quiet basement for decades. When the Kurt weather station was found in Canada, it was not just the discovery of old equipment. This station, installed in 1943 by the German military in northern Labrador, was a testament to how far reconnaissance missions could go during the war. The Kurt turned out to be the only armed German post in North America during the Second World War. Now, decades later, its accidental discovery reminded the world of the hidden pages of history lost in the Canadian tundra.
And how do you like such a twist? To be honest, I can't do without your comments here.
They say that somewhere in the Polish tunnels, the Nazis' golden train is hidden. It's full of treasures. Hidden in Lower Silesia, this train still has not been found, probably because it does not want to return from the golden era of Nazi treasures. After all, if you were a train full of gold, you would also prefer to remain invisible rather than become the main attraction of Walbridge. Now, you can become the luckiest person. Maybe you'll be lucky enough to solve this puzzle. When the Brit decided to clean the chimney, he did not expect to find a real spy there. The remains of a pigeon, which are more than 70 years old, were discovered along with the message, which never reached the addressee. This feathered agent seems to have chosen the most unusual place for its last hiding place, but what was there in the encrypted message? Secret codes that would save the world, or a recipe for the perfect pie from the commander's grandmother? Scientists are now racking their brains, trying to discover the historical tweet. An armored wmok tractor equipped with anti-aircraft weapons was pulled out of the reservoir. This is a real military beast of the Second World War. Can you imagine a giant car covered with silt and algae slowly rising to the surface, like an amusement park attraction for historians and antiquarians? It's really an unreal sight. You don't see such a thing every day. In a Scottish forest, as if from a magician's hat, a bunker from the Second World War suddenly appeared. It was a secret base of the Churchill army. An underground shelter, conceived as the last line of defense against the Nazis, was discovered by lumberjacks. These guerrilla apartments, measuring 7 by 3 meters, could accommodate 7 fighters armed to the teeth, ready to blow up not only bridges, but also peace talks. The forgotten bunker was ready for battle in the depths of the forest, but history decided otherwise, leaving it under the cover of centuries-old trees and secrets. This rare find was lifted from the depths of the sea. It was a 3-seat Heinkel H 115 military aircraft. Originally owned by the Norwegian Naval Aviation Services, this aircraft has suffered an unusual fate. During World War II, it was captured by the Nazis and incorporated into their air force. Its last combat mission was in December 1942, when the plane sank to the bottom forever. Today, this historical artifact has seen the light of day again, recalling the turbulent times and the change of owners. This is another evidence of how war rewrites the stories of even iron birds. This underground complex was discovered in the mountains where Adolf Hitler himself once stayed. This bunker is a real masterpiece of conspiracy, consisting of several rooms that hosted high-ranking officers. Can you imagine a tunnel 6 kilometers long, the entrance to which is hidden behind a concrete doorway carved right into the mountainside? It was not just a bunker, but a real 5-star hotel for the Nazi elite. After all, how many legends could tell if the walls could talk? The entrance to this complex alone is like a scene from a spy thriller. On the beaches of Huike in Denmark, you can find real artifacts of history. These are Nazi bunkers from the Second World War. These concrete giants, built in 1943 to 1944 when the Germans used Denmark as a base to attack Norway, stand alone, abandoned, but still imposing. These bunkers, once teeming with life and covert operations, are now a reminder of how far human determination can go. Locals and tourists are happy to explore these abandoned fortifications, imagining how life raged here during the war.
If you haven't liked this episode yet, now is the best time to do it.
Now you're walking through the museum and suddenly in front of you is the legendary Dauntless dive bomber, lifted from the bottom of Lake Michigan. Yes, this hero of the Second World War spent a lot of time at a depth of 100 meters, and now it has been restored and sent to the National Museum of Naval Aviation. Isn't that amazing? After lying in cold waters for decades, it regained its former glory, becoming a living reminder of the heroism and technical achievements of its era. On the coast of the Hawaiian island of Oahu, at a depth of more than 700 meters, a giant Japanese submarine I-400 was discovered, which sank in 1946. This mega submarine, owned by the Imperial Japanese Navy, was the largest before the advent of nuclear submarines. In addition, it could carry up to 3 bombers, which were launched directly from the deck. In 1946, the Americans sank the I-400 to keep its technology a secret from the USSR. Terry Kirby and his team from the Hawaii Underwater Research Laboratory found this historical artifact decades later, solving a long-standing mystery and shedding light on innovations in underwater shipbuilding. On July 26, 1996, a semi-tracked Sd.Kfz 251 armored personnel carrier used during World War II was discovered on the Pilica River near the village of Vismessage. This German armored personnel carrier was part of the headquarters of the 19th Panzer Division and sank on January 18, 1945, when German troops were retreating. Found damaged, but with a full set of equipment, the armored personnel carrier was lifted and restored, and then transferred to a local museum. In October 2014, significant remnants of the Messerschmitt Me 262 jet fighter were discovered in the Netherlands. These remains were found during excavations at the former German Delen air base near Arnhem. The aircraft was buried in a filled bomb crater and was probably buried at the end of World War II. The parts found, including the nose, wing, engine, and 2 30mm guns, were preserved to a very large extent and are now being identified and preserved by the Delen Air Base Museum. On the island of Jersey at Normont Point, there is the Mulki artillery battery, built by the Germans in 1942. It was equipped with 4 French guns of 1917 155mm caliber, capable of firing at a distance of up to 20 kilometers, which provided ideal protection for St. Owen Bay. These guns were placed on open concrete pedestals and could fire at targets not only in the bay, but also throughout the island. Mulki Battery was clearly part of a system of fortifications created to protect against a possible Allied invasion. I'm sure that the horrors of war will just haunt us for a long time. Just imagine what those who went through this hell personally experienced. Every war not only destroyed cities, but also broke destinies and lost relatives and friends. How many more unknown victims can be found under the rubble of history? We must remember them in order to understand how valuable the world is. After all, every soldier, every lost face is someone's irreparable loss and eternal pain.
Have you also noticed that our time together flies at the speed of light? We can't wait to see you in our next episode. See you soon.